Hello.
I'm Shep, so I'm the students in Illinois. So hello everybody, welcome to the Icons of Horror panel. My name is Chris. I'll be hosting the panel with some very important members of the genre. We have R.A. Mihailoff. Listen, I asked like three. And Andrew Divoff as well, and Bill Moseley.
I'm the only non-Russian here, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. R.A. Played Leatherface in Texas Chainsaw 3, which is actually my favorite sequel. And I also love part 2. I love part 2. Okay, but I really like part 2. So I love part 3. And Andrew Divoff, of course, played Jim in Wishmaster 1 and 2. Did not play them in 3 and 4, so it was just sucked by default, let's be real. Bill, of course, played John Top in Texas Chainsaw 2, Otis, and I guess what do they call that? 3 from Hell. Is there a name for the trilogy? What is this trilogy? The 3 from Hell is coming out.
I guess so, yeah, it's a trilogy. It's a trilogy in the making. 3 from Hell is a sequel.
Yeah. So. 2 Devils Redax,
Yeah, it's 14 years later.
So
see how that happens.
Yeah, no one knows. No one knows how that's going to start because y'all got shot up at the end of Devil's Redax. Hopefully they've also done it.
Did we? It was so long ago.
Maybe. So I just kind of want to go down the line and let you gentlemen kind of talk about your careers and the films that you were a part of, and then we'll have some general questions and we'll go from there. Sound good? Yeah. Okay. So Ari, I'll start with you since you're to my left. How did you get the role of Leatherface in Texas Chainsaw 3?
When I was a child, my father had many volumes of poetry. That's a joke between me and Bill. What's the question?
How did you get involved with Texas Chainsaw 3?
Exactly.
How did you get involved with Texas Chainsaw 3? How did you get the role of Leatherface?
I knew the director.
Okay.
Pure and simple, but that's the pure and simple version. I actually had met Jeff Burr, the director, when he was a student at USC Film School, did his student film and did many student films down there. Jeff and I became great friends. When he was hired to do the movie, he offered the role to Gunnar, which was right and proper. Unfortunately, Gunnar was unable to make a deal with New Line, left the part open, and I was literally among our group of film geek friends, I was the most obvious choice.
And Andrew, you didn't start with Wishmaster. Your first movie, I believe, everyone was on Maniacs.
Yes, yes it is. I'm still waiting for my paycheck.
I think a lot of people are still waiting for their paycheck.
No, that was fun. I think I only showed up on the cover of that when after Wishmaster.
Yeah, Anchor Bay put it out and put your character on the cover.
Yeah.
Who's in the movie for like, what is it, 10 seconds you're on screen without that mask?
But I must say, the inventiveness of the art of makeup, it was so cool. So they sit me in a chair and they say, okay, and the first time I had absolutely no clue, but it was so cool to, so it was literally Elmer's glue, toilet tissue, for real, and then they put the skin-colored makeup over the toilet tissue, and then they just told me, just scratch it up, just start scratching it. It looked like peeling skin.
Yeah.
So I thought that was very inventive, very cool. And as you say, the makeup took all of 20 seconds, and my participation in the movie was 10. So a total of 30 seconds.
It's a fun little movie if you guys haven't seen it.
But how long did it take you to get the Elmer's glue off?
About an hour and a half.
Right.
He's still finding bits and pieces here and there. And Bill, you got your start. What was that like for you, getting involved in, let's say, Texas Chainsaw 2 and Chop Top? How did you come across that role?
I had made a short film called the Texas Chainsaw Massacre a couple of years before Chainsaw 2. And I gave myself a part, I gave myself a cameo as the hitchhiker from the original Chainsaw. And a friend of mine, I showed it to a friend of mine who was a screenwriter in Los Angeles, who just happened to have an office across the hall from Toby Hooper, where Toby was making Poltergeist. And so my friend took a copy. It was on VHS, for those of you who are younger, you might not know what that is, but it's like a videotape. And walked it into Toby, and Toby watched the Chainsaw Manicure, which was about 5 minutes long. And particularly, loved it and loved my cameo as the hitchhiker. And 2 years later, in 1986, I got a call from Toby's screenwriter, Kid Carson, saying, where should I send the script? And I was like, whoa, what? And sent the script, I was told to keep an eye on Chop Top, and I called him back and I said, this is a funny story, and it's a cool character. And like, wow. And I got offered the part. I never did audition. It was just based on that cameo in the Chainsaw Manicure.
Do you still have the Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Yeah. Yeah, I never put it up on social media or YouTube or anything, just because I never had the rights to some of the music that I used. I used like Clifton Chenier and Kinky Friedman and some other music, and I just didn't have I hadn't cleared that, so I was paranoid as a younger man. Now I'm not, because what are they gonna do? Yeah, I mean, I still have it. It's in the closet. It's got a few cobwebs on it, but it looks good.
Sweet. I want to see it.
Yeah, no, it's awesome.
Anyone else want to see it? Anyone else want to see Texas Chainsaw Massacre? There's a fair use act now, Bill. You can put it on YouTube, but if they flag for copyright, just fix anything. They don't pay attention anymore.
Yeah,
They're still. Andrew, back to you, because obviously Wishmaster, the gym. That process, I was just like in the Animaniacs to get the makeup. What was it like going into that role? Maybe with the experience of the Animaniacs, expecting, this is only going to take a little while, and then full prosthetics and bodysuit later. Oh, never mind.
Yeah. So the first time, sort of the makeup test was a 4-hour trip. Thinking of Gilligan's Island, it was like a 3-hour tour.
Yeah, it was like 3.
But so it was 4 hours. Going on, and I was told that it was going to be, the face itself was 12 different pieces for the appliance, and each one would be seamed in, and at that time the latex wasn't as evolved as it is now in the glue, neither were the glues, and so it was really a painstaking process. Garrett Limmel, who was with KMB, was the artist applying it, and I was just sort of watching it happen without judgment about, wow, I was just thrilled to be the guy that was going to be, the Wishmaster. I was in seventh heaven. So everything else was, literally icing and glue on the cake. And so it, as I say, the first time, it took 4 hours, and of course, production teams, as they are, start to get very nervous. 4 hours, okay. We got to get this down. So they figured out a way to bring it back to about 2 hours and 45. With the full body then, it was back up to about 4. And so those were only out of, say, 36 days total shooting. I think there were 3 days in the full outfit. But I suppose it became sort of painfully obvious when that first dab of white glue went on with a brush, and it was freezing cold, and I would show up at 4 in the morning, and so I would know, okay, here's another 12 to 16 hours, and just try to sit down in the chair, be listening to music. But I was still a kid in a candy shop. I still felt quite, I was amazed and very happy to be the kid in the latex.
And Ari, did you have to wear any prosthetics as Leatherface under the mask, or?
Very little,
Did you wear a mask?
Are we on the set this morning? Very little, because as everyone's aware, in the storyline, the mask is a mask. So tied on with leather dongs and untied. Just a little bit where my flesh showed through the edges of the mask, just a little bit of, excuse me, a little little bit of, prosthetic stuff, not much.
You wear teeth too as well, right? Fake teeth?
Yeah, fake teeth.
Yeah, those are fun. Can't really talk about them.
You spit them out and, hey, you guys want to know what the secret of holding dentures is? KY jelly. Swear to God.
That sounds nasty. Sounds nasty.
That's a secret of what?
Holding indentures.
Like instead of using polydent,
Right.
you use KY jelly.
Works like a charm.
Keeps them in there tight.
Learn something today.
Right.
We are talking about teeth.
Teeth? Yeah.
Yes, teeth. That's why it's so counterintuitive.
Yeah.
You'd think they would slip out, but no, they stick in tight.
That's what they say, it gets you into the tightest of social circles.
What?
Oh my.
Evolving.
A little bit, yeah. So, I want to take some questions from the audience. I'm sure that there's more than a couple of you that have some questions to ask, so we're going to start this off. Anyone want to throw something out there? Oh, come on, there's so many people in here. No one's hands are going up.
I have a question.
Okay.
Yeah, is that a ram? What kind of skull is that on? Oh, it is a ram, okay. That's awesome. You guys are great. All right, that sounds good. Can you keep my plane in the air? I'm flying back to LA this afternoon. Put in a good word for me with King Mihailoff. All right, thank you.
I know. I mean, thank you.
Good night.
It's the internet. It's the goddamn internet. I played it. I mean, there are no secrets anymore. You guys know everything about it.
Well, I do have a question. I'm not sure if you can answer it, but what can you tell us about Three from Hell?
Well, I can't say much. I think I've signed a non-disclosure agreement. I finally figured out what NDA stands for. But it's coming out early 2019. It's a sequel to The Devil's Rejects. It was written and directed by Rob Zombie. It's coming out, it's going to be a theatrical release because it's put out by Lionsgate. And it should be full of gratuitous violence and a lot of depravity and just a lot of fucked up shit. So I'm sure you'll all really enjoy it. I'm really looking forward to it. So that's what I can tell you. Smattering of applause.
What was the total film time? How long did it take you for this current movie to?
Oh, to shoot Three from Hell? I think it was 20 days. Yeah. So we busted our humps. Yeah.
So Rob Zombie has a tendency to be a somewhat polarizing filmmaker, to say the least, because of the Halloween movies. Ever since after Devil's Rejects, he could do no wrong, and he made Halloween, and all of a sudden he could do nothing right. According to everybody else, I love it. I love those movies. But totally, with House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects, they're two completely different movies. They don't even feel like they're sequels, same characters. Is Three from Hell following that formula? Can you say that, or is it going to be something that's similar to those two movies?
Let me answer that. Hold on, I'll answer that. I really can't say. Actually, right, thank you. Andrew will answer that one. No, I really can't say anything.
Okay, just curious. I guess we'll have to wait for it to come out.
Say what?
We'll have to wait for it to come out.
You do have to wait for it to come out. That was when I thought that Rob was not just a good filmmaker, but really kind of a genius, was when I saw the difference between Devil's Rejects and House of a Thousand Corpses. Because it was really weird. House of a Thousand Corpses was a very good, old dark house, classic horror movie. But then when we did Devil's Rejects and Otis, really in the space of, because I think Rejects picks up about not more than a week or two after the end of House of a Thousand Corpses. Unless the Roseville Sheriff's Department didn't really care that two of their best officers were killed. But so the fact that Otis went from an albino to looks like one of the Allman Brothers, that was pretty wild. And then the fact that Sherry only laughed once in Devil's Rejects. Her And that Captain Spaulding is mostly out of clown makeup. That was pretty wild. And then it really became kind of a different genre. It's almost like a Western or like like a revenge, road movie or something. It was like a chase movie. So it really was so completely different. It almost was a different genre. And I thought that was pretty fantastic. That still isn't going to tell you anything about Three from Hell, but
Yeah, still something. Does anyone have any 2D fucking fruity for Bill, by the way? No, nobody. So, and Andrew, the Wishmaster came out in '97, where there was nothing to go on really hard, and it sort of became an icon. What was that like for you that movie to kind of find that audience and all of a sudden become what it is now, which is up there with
It blows me away that I'm here, and to see the young kids come up, and there was a young man, Aiden was his name, came up, and he was all of 12 years old, and I asked him, I said, so when did you see the movie? And he said, back in June. And I thought, I think that was so cool, and that more than anything, more than sort of this sort of what I would call, I mean, I'm a lot less cocky than I was, say, a few years ago, and say, I'm feeling great about that, or look at this, but just the fact now that I can, 20 years later, 17, of course, was 20 years, and the fact that it's sort of been passed on as these other gentlemen can attest to, having new generations come up and talk about your work is really a nice pat on the back. As far as it's interesting. The first week I was kind of amazed because it came out I think the same week as The Game and Air Force One. Back in '97, and I was we were playing in the top 5, and for me that was amazing to be hanging with Air Force One, and then in what used to be called through sales or sail through or whatever, when VHS was around and people were buying, and so we still were hanging high, and I hadn't paid a whole lot of attention to the behind the scenes sort of production and that kind of sell through and all of that. But I was really fairly amazed that it was hanging, and really all props to the artists, to K&B, and to Garrett Immel, who painstakingly put that makeup on, and also just the fact that the movie itself. I was a big Harryhausen fan, and so some of the gags in there are very throwbacks to Harryhausen and that sort of stop motion, and so that was again, kid in a candy shop. I was thrilled to be part of all that. I didn't answer your question, did I?
You did.
Okay.
You did. Yeah, you got it. You're good. And in terms of the projects you guys have worked on, what would you say is your favorite? Favorite project you've worked on? That's across the board. Anybody?
I really like them all. I mean, they're all so different. I always go back to Chainsaw 2 because it was like the first time I realized that you could run away and join the circus and they would let you stay. Yeah, that was fun. To realize that I'm from the Midwest and my parents are were very staunch Republican, industrial people from the corn or something. And so there wasn't really a lot of, they never said, hey, someday I hope you're an actor. That was not really in the cards. So the fact that I was able to, act for a living, was so exciting. And that really came to the fore with Chainsaw 2. So, and now, I have a pension. I mean, as actors, we're in the union. I mean, it's pretty cool, like health benefits, all the kinds of stuff that you really wouldn't necessarily think about, in terms of acting. But it's been great. And I think probably I had the most fun acting on Chainsaw 2 because Tobe Hooper loved what I was doing, which was exciting. And there was a lot of improv, and we just romped around, and who wouldn't love to act with Jim Seabat, who played the cook in, a bunch of those Chainsaw movies. So, just hanging out with those guys and doing what and I always loved horror movies, so, just beautiful.
And then you played him in 3D. You played his
I
character.
did.
3D.
I played Jim. I got to say, look what your brother did to the door! Which really was, a dream come true.
Any projects that really, stick out for you as your favorite, or something?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I should have been, my parents, and again, sort of following in the motif of what Bill was talking about. My parents were convinced I was going to be a professor of linguistics. So I attended Georgetown University and majored in linguistics, minored in Russian and Russian area studies, and received 4 certificates. I would have translated on the Hill for the UN or for the Organization of American States. But then my father was not very thrilled to find out that I had taken a leave, shall we say. It began with a rowdy night of drinking. But I took a leave from school, decided I needed a little bit of a break because my brain was like, I loved languages, but then they took languages and turned it into formulas and letters. And, it was bad enough when they did that with math. Totally lost interest in it after that. But so anyway, so I came out west for a break. My father was at the same time retiring, and so I helped him move into. He moved into a condo down by the beach, and so I, being the sort of bon vivant leech that I am, I decided, well, hell, you got a couch, you can crash on the couch. I'll help you move in, and then I'll move my ass in. I'll stay. So he wasn't thrilled to find out I was driving a limo during the day and sometimes at night, and I was going to acting classes. He was not at all thrilled, having introduced me to all of his friends as the future professor. My mom, on the other hand, she was all for it. She said, whatever you want to go for it. Sad to, I'll just share this little thing. So my mom passed away December 1st, '89. I began another 48 hours 3 days later. And the studio didn't want me to fly down. So I got to spend the last moments with my mom. Then I came up, and to answer your question, the most beautiful moment for me was the premiere of Toy Soldiers. My father attended, and so I stayed behind to do a kind of a Q&A panel like we're doing today. And then came out, and my father was waiting there, and the look on his face was priceless, guys. You'll understand this, He was looking at me and shaking his head, and just, he was totally amazed. And from that moment on, every other movie that I shared with him that he saw, for instance, another 48 hours, he said, well, you were good, but it was no Toy Soldiers. It was nice that he had made that turn. And so to this day, it holds a very special place in my heart.
And Arden, what's your proudest achievement being an actor?
Well, like these esteemed gentlemen to my left, I'm from the Midwest, blue-collar family. I always had aspirations of being in the movie business, even when I was a little kid. I would read famous monsters of filmland and go, man, how cool would it be to play the werewolf or the Frankenstein monster? And then as I got older and learned that acting was a profession, I went to acting school and all that crap, and I moved to Hollywood with the absolute goal to be a movie star. Well, come on, you can't waste this face. But anyway, so, my first starring role in a horror movie, I'm a lifelong horror fan as well. So that was perfect. That was my childhood fantasy meeting my adult ambition. Boom. Perfect storm. It was wonderful. So that, and the fact that movie playing the titular, let me say that again, playing the titular character.
Back to the kid.
I like that word. elevated me from a day player to, I don't know, maybe, what's the name of this panel?
Horror icon.
Icon.
Oh, yeah. I guess I must be one if I'm here. Anyway, so of course that was my first love, but like children, you love them all in different ways. So chronologically, Leatherface Chainsaw 3 is my first big movie and my first love. But other significant ones in chronological order were Hatchet 2, because I got to work with a fantastic cast in that. And then I did a movie with Mr. William Moseley called Smothered. I had so much fun in that movie. Oh my God. I was hoping we were going to do a sequel. But anyway, then I did a little movie a couple of years ago called Slasher.com. I didn't want to do it. I put up every obstacle I could, but the people kept meeting. Every roadblock I set for them, they surpassed it. So I broke down and did the movie, and I'm glad I did, because I made some really good friends, and I actually got my first individual nomination for Best Supporting Actor. One last movie, the last one I just did. This is okay. It's called Ride Hard, Live Free. It's a post-apocalyptic biker movie, but don't have visions of Road Warrior in your head. It's just like following motorcycle clubs set in 50 years in the future. And what I loved about that movie was I got to go to the desert and ride Harley Davidsons, checking the plus column. Got to hang out with real outlaw motorcycle clubs. For me, that's a check in the plus column. Got to fire automatic weapons, check in the plus column. And got to harass teenage girls and not go to jail, check in the plus column.
So stay away from your house.
Come on over. Trespassers will be shot.
That's what I'm saying.
And fed to the hogs.
You got hogs? You have hogs?
It's my dream one day to retire, raise hogs, and ride hogs.
Nice.
But not to retire, just to,
Yeah, I got you.
So that brings me into actually what I wanted to ask. With the different characters that you guys have portrayed through the different years, what do you guys do to really get yourself into your character? Like, there's the method acting, like, that Leto did for his Joker, and Keith did for his Joker, of like really screwing with people and getting deep into his characters. Each one of you had like a very, you each had certain characters that could almost be more like real. So, except for the demon, of course, but what did you guys do to really get into your characters?
I just read the script a lot and just use my imagination. I don't really bring it home. It's kind of hard when you have, a wife and 2 kids to bring Otis home. Not really good when maybe don't like the way your eggs were cooked. I just use my imagination and leave it on the set. I actually have to go, everybody. I'm out of here at 3, so I have to split the back up. But I just want to thank you all for coming out, and I'm sure these guys will. We'll see you next year.
Following up on that, take care, Bill.
Bye, Bill.
I panic a lot. And I believe every single thing that I read or that I'm about to get into. I believe, man, there's no way I'm going to do this. No way I can do this. And then, so I spend a day and a half panicking, and then I get to work. And I kind of obsess with it. I take it with me everywhere. For instance, if, say, Luis Gaggi, it was very interesting, that last name that happens to be a town in Colombia. I'll go and check out the town, online, do my, not a whole lot of online at that time. So mostly magazines, do my, my sort of background research. I just taking it all the way to most recently now. I just played this wonderful French-Canadian knife-wielding psycho. It was wonderful. And so I studied and sort of, his name was Buddy Woonsocket, little town near here you may know. So I did a little bit of investigation about the town, but mostly about his background, and even down to the who's his favorite singer. Now, this was a movie that took place back in '75, so I picked, of course, Robert Goulet was his favorite singer. And when somebody just kicking around, just having fun during the cut, when we're not filming, I'd have arguments with the other characters about who was better, Frank Sinatra or Robert Goulet, that kind of stuff, goofy stuff that just kind of, gets me in the vibe, if you will. But I like to do a lot of background stuff. I like to figure out stuff like that. What's their favorite movies, food, music, just so that I can take that with me as I'm tripping down the hallway or whatever I'm doing.
I think we're getting some feedback. Anybody else have anything before we do that? Up, back there? I don't know if his mic's on.
How does it feel to have your own action figure? Like if
How does it feel to
yourself.
have an action figure?
Well, since I don't get any of the merchandising, I could care less.
Do you have it?
It was an honor. I would have, I'll share with you guys, I'm wearing a ring that I sculpted. This is the Wishmaster, the djinn, and I sculpted it out of spite and following on what my brother R.A. said here. So, and I didn't know this, it was in the contract when I did Wishmaster. My agents knew that I was an artist, that I painted and sculpted, and so they had worked out this deal with Mr. TM, I'll call him TM. And he, so the deal was that I would participate in the artwork and participate in the royalties as well. And so I'm driving down the highway one day, and the agent calls and says, "Hey, your action figure is out in the stores." I said, "No, it's not." He said, "It is." So I pulled over. And at that time, there was a place called Suncoast Video. They may still be around. So I pulled over, and sure enough, I walk up to the shelf, and I look, and oh my God, there's the Wishmaster. So, just out of courtesy, I asked the agent to please reach out to Mr. TM and ask him, what happened. I wouldn't have presumed, by the way, to get in the way of his interpretation of his artwork, but the response that came back pissed me off. It really did. He says to my agent, he says, "Tell Mr. Divoff," now we have some youngins in here, so I'm not going to say the full F word, but he says, "Tell Mr. Divoff he can go F himself. And if he has a problem with that, he can sue me." Well, I couldn't sue Mr. TN. So what I did do when kids came up with the action figure, I made a pewter version, and by the way, I wear this hopefully. I hope I see Mr. TN in a hallway somewhere, because I'm going to put my version of the Wishmaster in his damn forehead. But anyway, I digress. So kids would come up with the action figure, and I was, again, I told you I was a little cocky a little while ago, and I feel bad about that now. But I would tell the kids, I'm not going to sign that, and here's why. And they go, "Wow, man, what an a-hole," and but I'll give you any picture, any 6 pictures on the table you want, or I'll trade you a pewter version for your doll. I got 300 of those things in a closet right now. I'm holding on. I'll get my 5%, whatever. But so again, it was kind of out of spite. that I did this, that I sculpted this ring. And I would say to people, I'd say, you want to see some artwork? Check this out. So anyway, back to hoping to see Mr. TM in an elevator, or a phone booth, or a hallway, or 7-Eleven, or Subway. Am I going on? Am I obsessing a bit?
Basically, if he's in public, he's in trouble. That's what I'm getting at. Yes.
But more than that, right now I do sign, and I'm happy to see that. And I know that it's a tribute to the monster, not so much to me, but to the monster, and to the guys who, Peter Atkins, Robert Kurtzman, the guys who created it. That was I'm sorry I shared so much. That was a really, really good question. Thanks.
Any other questions? All right, so we're going to wrap this up, but before we do, Andrew, I'm sure you've been asked this a million times, but can you give us something in the Wishmaster's voice? Like, give us a closeout as the gin.
Thank you so much for being